but the AI trends that will transform your organizations, what your nonprofits need to know, and how leading teams, that's you guys, you're the executive directors, all the people that make the decisions, applying artificial intelligence in practice to drive mission impact. My name is Aretha Simons. I'm the webinar producer here at TechSoup. I'm going to show you how you can engage on the next slide. As I said, there's many people that registered today, almost 1,000. So we would love if you put your question in the Q&A. Tapp Network has people here that will answer your questions while you put them in the Q&A. I know you'll still put them in the chat. We're going to try to grab them. But there's going to be a survey that's going to pop up. Just 3 simple questions. If you take 3 minutes and answer those, I greatly appreciate it. Closed captions, click on the CC button. You can listen to it or excuse me, watch it on the screen in your language. This is being recorded. You're going to get the recording later today or early in the morning with the slides. I'm going to move out of the way because you got the co-founders of Tapp Network. How often do you get the co-founders coming to you on a webinar? They're going to tell you more about themselves. I'm going to, by the way, introduce you to Joe and Kyle. Thank you both for being here. Over to you.
Great. Hi, everybody. Good morning. Good afternoon. Hope everyone's safe on the East Coast and everywhere else with the ice storm and snowstorm. But we're excited today to go over the AI trends for nonprofit organizations. I'm Joe DiGiovanni. I'm one of the co-founders of Tapp Network. My background is in digital marketing, digital innovation, and we've been together, Kyle and I, with Tapp Network for almost 14 years. I'll have Kyle introduce himself, and he also serves as our CTO.
Yeah, thanks. As Joe said, good afternoon, good morning, everyone. I'm sure some of you might have been on some of these presentations or webinars with us before, but welcome back for anybody who has. Welcome for the first time, anybody who hasn't been on. So my background is more in like the technology application development space. We've been using AI since the beginning of Tapp in one way or another. And we're excited to see how it's become more mainstream over the past few years. Taking advantage of it. Excited today to go through some of those opportunities, some of the successes we've seen other organizations implement.
Great. Thanks, Kyle. So just a quick background on Tapp. We're a mission-driven organization. So we work primarily with nonprofits and government agencies and purpose-driven organizations, philanthropy. We are TechSoup's exclusive provider for website development services, marketing, and AI. So hopefully we have some of our clients on the call today as well. And our mission really is to help you execute your vision, and how can we use AI to help you accelerate that? Our goal is to work with nonprofits to drive efficiency, impact, and ultimately your funding. Next slide. Yeah, so these are some of the core offerings that we offer through TechSoup. You might have been on our webinars. We do them bi-weekly, and if you go to TechSoup's homepage, you can see our services. But we primarily work with website development, digital marketing, and then all the customization that comes along with that. And a lot of our clients now are coming to us for AI strategy, and then ultimately, how do we integrate and integrate AI into our systems and workflows and the tools that we have. So just a quick sample of what we do. And on the next slide, just kind of want to familiarize everybody else with our, whoops. Oh, can you go to the state of AI in nonprofits?
Where'd you want to go, Jeff? Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. We just did our services.
Yeah.
There we go. Yeah. So like I was mentioning, Tapp Network, we've been when we first started working with our clients with AI, a lot of it was, in regards to, Chat GPT and things like that. But what we've really noticed that, a lot of the nonprofits we're working with, they're lacking structure, they're working in silos. So a lot of the different systems, their fundraising platforms, their educational platforms, social media, they're working in silos. People starting to use AI, Chat GPT to develop content. But a lot of the AI was outside of these systems, and then trying to integrate them was very challenging. and a lot of staff capacity is just at maximum capacity. So the biggest gains really that we're looking at with AI now is these connected workflows. So for your fundraising platform, is AI built into your fundraising platform, and how can we connect that to the AI per se that might be on your website or your social distribution platform? And as these tools begin to integrate AI into their systems, the goal is to connect them. And that's what today is really going to be about is connecting these workflows. So we'll go through four major trends that are associated with that. One is answer engine optimization, AEO. We'll talk about AI agents, personalization, and then content creation. All of these have been accelerating very quickly, and today we'll go through all of them and also show how they're all connected. Um, and then before we do that, I just wanted to quickly go through, yep, the opportunity for nonprofits. So they lack structure, the chatbots, the capacity is stretched, and the biggest gains, like I said, will come from connectivity. My internet is going in and out a little bit today, so I'm behind Kyle's slides a bit, but yeah, so this right here is the slide. This is the state of AI in nonprofits. This is a webinar and um, survey that we did with TechSoup that really showed the big gap in nonprofits. So 85% of nonprofits, they're exploring generative AI tools. Uh, this survey was done the end of last year, so you can really see just how that's increased just by the folks on the call today. But what we really want to help folks with is the AI strategy part. 76% do not have an AI strategy in place, and it's important to do that. You have to have guidelines. You need to look at ethics and accessibility and all the rules in place before you even implement your strategic plan. And just very few, 7% have successfully adopted AI across their operations. And that's really where we see a lot of the impact, not just marketing and content creation, but how do you get your systems to be integrated? And again, it's who is going to manage this AI, who is going to be a part of that team. You're going to need an AI advisory board, and then who's going to make the decisions on implementation and integrating that into your strategy. So today, hopefully we'll get you on your foot and get you down the road. So before we do that, like I mentioned, nonprofits, they're lacking interest, but they're lacking the structure. Today we'll go through the structure, we'll break down the silos, we'll look at how to integrate the systems and really appease that staff capacity that's being stretched so we can connect the workflows. So we'll kick it off with trend number one, answer engine optimization. Kyle.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. So as we said, as Joe said, we're gonna go through four different trends today. I think somebody mentioned my mic was breaking up, so hopefully this sounds a little better. We're going four different trends today. The first one is answer engine optimization. It's really about optimizing your content, switching from the traditional format of trying to get links from from other blogs or other websites or trusted sources, and then actually like people before with search engine, like through search engine optimization, could go get reputable blogs to link back to their sites, even if their site didn't have the content that was going to answer those questions. And it wasn't going to be, the right resource for information for someone. So you could sort of trick the system in some cases. We've seen many nonprofit organizations who have a ton of great content and are really a resource of information. They just aren't optimized. They weren't optimized for search engines. That just wasn't their game, so to speak. But they wouldn't show up and people wouldn't find that content. With answer engine optimization and building a little bit more for these AI chatbots and services, those nonprofits can compete and your organization can compete, going from like this general keyword search to making it match a question that someone asks. So if you just think about how you might personally engage with something like ChatGPT or even like Alexa or Siri, you ask it a real question. It's not just like best shoes or best, whatever in the area. It's like, how do I solve this problem? What do I do in this situation? Or you might even give it some information and ask for it to solve that problem for you. So optimizing for the answer engines is going to help provide a clear response to that. And it becomes more of an actual human type response too. So the content you're creating will help respond and answer that question. So I just kind of give a high level overview of what it is, but it's the idea of structuring content so that those AI search tools can find that content for you, show it in their results, and then use you or your organization as the source of information and the answer to that. I know famously, I think it was Eric Schmidt, one of the co-founders or leaders at Google, has said that within the next 10 years, they kind of see websites kind of going away, like user interface going away, and everything will exist based on things like this, where you're asking a question, you're just getting an answer. So you don't need to browse, 100 different web pages to try to find an answer. You're asking it for an answer. It's giving you the best answer to that question, the most relevant answer for you, whether that's location or based on your demographics, your background, your search history, whatever it might be, but it's going to be very contextual to you as a user, and that's what we want to optimize for with this answer engine optimization. So providing clarity in the content you're creating, providing context, and providing intent for what you expect someone to do and what you expect the next step to be. How does this stack up versus what I was giving you the example of SEO, traditional SEO, so search engine optimization is optimizing for keywords and rankings, as I mentioned, focusing on driving traffic to pages, regardless of how beneficial that traffic is, and even what the outcome of that traffic is expected to be. Typically, we measure success of that through clicks and impressions. So you'll get agencies that'll say, "Oh, I drove 1,000 visits to your website." Well, that doesn't really matter if nothing happened with those visits, but it's great. Thanks for bringing me traffic. It's one of the problems with that. We do a lot of website development, website hosting. We'll often see big spikes in traffic from campaigns that people push or sites they get listed on. And if you're worried about capacity on your website because you have like a lower cost web host or something like that, these big spikes in traffic that your website can't handle might also cost you more. It might take your site down. So it's even more important to make sure you have the right people, the right traffic. And then the audience that you go after, typically with SEO, is written for search engines, as I was saying. So might look great to a search engine, might be great for a bot, but it's not going to be great for who your end user is. Versus AEO, so answer engine optimization, it's optimized for that Q&A approach, the questions and answers. So if someone's asking a question, I'm giving them an answer with my website content. It's focusing on clear information and being very direct. So it's not overly verbose. It's not stuffed with keywords. It's not stuffed with buzzwords. It's not just trying to answer, just trying to be optimized for, again, those search engines and those bots. One of the metrics that we measure are for clarity, for engagement. So not just clicks and impressions on the page itself, but how is someone engaging with that content? Are they getting the right answers? Are they taking it a step further? Are they donating? Are they supporting the organization? Are they signing up to volunteer? Are they joining your membership campaign? And then task completion. So it's being able to, it's a lot easier with it optimizing for answer engines to be able to optimize, to be able to search for like what the task completion you're asking them to do. So it could be a purchase, a donation, a conversion. And then the audience for this is written for people, as I said. So it's not written for bots and search engines. It's written for people and AI systems, which again are also meant to provide answers for people. To make your content ready for AEO, start thinking about things that can be created in sort of like the FAQ, the frequently asked questions format, and be resource content. So it's you'll very specifically see like a frequently asked question. You probably see this if you don't pay attention to this now. I'm sure after this conversation, you'll be able to look at a website that you see with frequently asked questions at the bottom, and you'll know that might be better optimized for search for answer engine optimization, for search results, for chatbots, for things like ChatGPT and Claude. But it's creating that question and then a very specific answer to that question. It's using clear structured pages. So there's a technical aspect of this for what the schema looks like when the HTML is built for the page, or the page structure is like, and also making sure that just general content structure is built with the proper headings, with the right format. So using bullets, using using logical, like the question and answer section throughout. I think last week or 2 weeks ago, we did a webinar on accessibility, and one of the key things there is making sure you're following the right content structure. This just goes to supporting that as well. Consistency in your language, so being sure that you're not just that across your entire site, the language is consistent, the answers, the questions and answers are consistent. You're not saying different things on different pages, so that then those chatbots, the AI systems, and things like that they're looking through your whole site and saying, okay, this whole site is about this organization's information. It's not just this one page is built for this specific keyword like it would be for SEO. And then, as we mentioned, it's built for the audience, so it's very supporter centric. So especially for organizations, tying this to your supporters' needs rather than like just marketing jargon or organizational jargon or like look how great this organization is. So it's a lot less look at me, and a lot more how we can help. So how someone can jump, can support your organization, or how your organization can support this as well. So a few examples of using AEO in practice. So I'm not going to read through all these, but just some that I think are good for highlighting. So featured snippets, as we talked about, drawing out like a little piece on a page, so it's in a blog post or it's on a donation page or something like that. You'd put something out like a question, pose the question, how can I volunteer at a local food bank? And then being able to give like a very specific answer to that with immediate next steps to sign in, sign up, take the next step with your organization. And then something like structured data. So we talked about this a little bit. Like this is more on the nerdy technical side, but making sure that your website is optimized for that. Even your emails are optimized for that if they ultimately become a web page as well. There's a thing called schema.org markup, and making sure it lists the right fields in that markup, so that when a chatbot file or crawls that site, or when someone asks that question, it can easily surface that markup and cut through the clutter of what other content might be on that page. So like when you say like our donations to this nonprofit tax deductible, having the right schema.org markup with like your hours, your EIN, your tax status, things like that are listed in that page will surface you in these answer engines. So if I were to go and say, is the Boys and Girls Club of Delaware donations tax deductible? If that's not listed publicly somewhere, but you do have it listed on your site, and that's uses that right markup, this engine is going to pop up and say, yes, according to bgclubs.org, this is a tax deductible donation. One more thing is worth highlighting is like having that direct answer content. So as I said, being very specific with the answers, but making sure that you have it's not a vague, like kind of, again, overly verbose answer. So if you ask something like how much of my donation goes to programs, answering that specifically is going to be optimized, an optimized answer for you, and be a more trusted response. So we use a few examples and case studies of this now. The first one is, if you're on this call, you might have been on TechSoup's knowledge base. This follows that very specific structure. So it's a support portal for you. It has a Q&A section in it. It has frequently asked questions. It follows that semantic organization concept we talked about. So it's grouped into different buckets like product support, Microsoft support. It's very optimized for like the AI crawlers. There's articles that are promoted, so it's highlighting the higher value ones, so that when those crawlers come through, these ones that are better optimized for search and such, for AEO search and such, are pushed to the top. And it's even, the design of it is even based on search, right? So to be based on asking that question, getting that answer. So it's even structured for the end user to be able to do that same search once they get there. You'll see this in practice if you go to Google, or if you're not just using ChatGPT or something like that. If you're searching Google, and especially if you ask it a question and don't just type in a keyword, you'll actually see this AEO optimized content in that first result in Google, and it'll say it's like an AI result. So it gives you like an overview. A lot of times this is pulling together multiple sources, so it's no longer is Google just giving you the first result in Google. It's combining a few different sources, and it's highlighting and linking those sources to answer your question, and that's what you're optimizing for. So it might not be every answer that you have on your site that's showing up here in this result, but one of the answers that Google's providing would be one of those search results. So as you see in this example, it's probably really small on your screen, but the question was, how can TechSoup help my nonprofit? And you see the AI overview, and then to the right, you see all the sources linked there, and those are all TechSoup sources. Turn it over to Joe. He's going to unmute himself before he starts talking, unless you guys are good at reading lips.
All right. Thank you, Kyle. So trend number one, AEO really sets up, the answer engine solution to a lot of the search and people finding your website. And then what's exciting now is that really helps, lead to people coming to your website. That's what we want. And when they get there, that answer engine optimization really turns into a conversation engine. And that's where AI agents are really becoming the front door of your website. So it's just not static pages and brochure and, hopefully they'll click to donate. It just doesn't happen, but it can if you have that conversation personalized for your actual person that's visiting it. So the three things that the agents can really do now is they can answer questions in real time, and they can trigger workflows based on the conversation. They can bring up other pages and other solutions and put you down the right path. And the great thing about all this is it really frees up time. So having to answer emails and phone calls and people getting misinformation or not getting the information they need, it starts to solve all of these problems. So we'll go through a couple steps on what we can really do with AI agents. So the first part really is let's define what an AI agent is. And unlike traditional AI that kind of simply responds to prompts, agents can execute multi-step workflows. They can maintain memory of the conversation, and they can adapt based on results to solve some of the complex problems. If someone's trying to make that donation or to become a volunteer, it begins to learn and respond accordingly. So for nonprofits, it really becomes, and in this case, that workflow becomes the agent, becomes the digital front door of your website, and it could really, really improve across the board. People can understand what your mission is. People will learn more and become educated. If they're educated, then they're more likely to be involved, attend an event, make a donation, be a volunteer. And the agents, you can have agents for each one of those that goes across the whole spectrum and really begin to engage with your constituents. So why does it matter? Well, if you start to study and look at the time that could be saved, and a lot of times we'll work with clients and we'll do a workshop and we'll look at their capacity. Where's staff time being spent? And we'll take a look at that and try to see where can AI agents come in and really take some of that time. So the staff, instead of doing, that type of work, you're more engaged in fundraising, policy, working with the community. So staff capacity is a huge improvement there. And then 24/7 availability. If someone's not in your office or in the field or managing, your website, you're shut down for 10, 16 hours a day. So you'll be available 24/7. So think of, you know, serving people in different time zones or serving people even in your own time zone who might not be able to engage with your nonprofit until after work or before work. Now you're available. And it could also scale responsiveness. Someone comes to the website, they might have a simple question around fundraising, but then you could elevate that into volunteering and other types of responses that you couldn't normally do just on, an FAQ. And then high value focus. Like I said, if you can take a lot of, imagine the amount of time that's involved in a lot of this stuff. If we could automate that, personalize it, have it in the bot, then this enables you to be in the field. So I think this year is going to be, a big jump, and you're going to see the websites have more of the chatbots up front, and then the workflows from the website will then evolve into donation bots, volunteer bots, and we'll see, within by next year, a lot of websites will be able to do a lot of these tasks right on the site. So here's kind of just four ways that we can use AI agents in practice. The first one is assisted routing, where we can sort incoming questions and ensure they reach the right department. So if someone's coming in and they want some educational materials, or they need you to speak at an event, or they're interested in a particular event, you could route that accordingly. It could send a text message to your phone. It could send you an email. It could alert you so you could hop right into the chat. But AI assisted routing will enable people to get as much of the automated responses as possible. But then now you can bring in the human in the loop and bring folks in at the right time. If someone's ready to donate, if you can hop into that conversation and get them over the finish line, that's a huge win. And then intent-based escalation. It's based on the user intent and urgency, not just keywords, meaning that through the conversation and the LLM, you'll be able to see the urgency. And like I said, if somebody needs help, then that can raise a flag and escalate things. We built 211 platforms for United Way, where people can come in, ask certain questions, and be served the right solutions at the right time. And then lifecycle aware responses. These are contextual replies that recognize where a supporter is in their donor journey. So this is very exciting. If someone comes to the website, the bot will recognize what articles they read, where they are in the donor journey. Maybe they've donated once, $100, but the next step really is to get them to donate on a monthly basis, or for them to attend this big gala. The bot will have access to your CRM. It will know, everything about that donor, and then be able to apply the donation conversation right within that life cycle. That way you're not just spamming everyone, donate $100, donate $100, please support this event. It's really contextualized on that life cycle of where they are to donate, or it could be on getting them to be a volunteer or a member. But plugging the bot into your CRM can completely transform the conversion rates on a lot of the things that you're doing. And finally, chat and routing tools. We use HubSpot. So TechSoup uses HubSpot as well. It's a great platform for connecting all those dots, your CMS, your CRM. It has AI built into it, your social media. So we'll get more into integration. But this is, like I said earlier, a lot of these AI bots, when they first came out, were siloed, and you had to integrate them all. Now a lot of systems like HubSpot has an AI bot built in, so you'll have it automatically with your website, your social media, your content creation, and it takes a lot of those silos, it breaks them all down. And here's an example just to kind of show you. I'm sure you've worked with TechSoup and just working with the chatbot on there, but these are AI chat experience that support web marketing and AI services that TechSoup provides through Tapp Network. But it'll automatically identify the user intent, and it routes the conversation appropriately to the folks on our end in terms of responding. It saves a ton of time on sorting and follow-up for staff, and it creates a clear pathway for a nonprofit. So if you have a question about website development, the chatbot will look at the different resources, the pricing structures and everything, make the best recommendation, capture that information, and then when you have a conversation with someone on TechSoup's end, it knows the questions you have, the size of your nonprofit, and get you the best answer. So it doesn't waste your time, and it makes the whole conversation much more efficient. So imagine flipping that onto your end. So when constituents come, or possible funders, you're able to route and answer their questions, and have all that set up so you can, be much more efficient. So as Kyle was mentioning with AEO and all the structure and the way you're setting up your content, so the way you're setting up the content on the back end, for your answer engine optimization, that same content is perfect to use to make to program your AI agent. So now these two different trends are really working together. So it's not just for search engine. It can fuel the AEO can fuel everything, especially your AI agents. So your content becomes your knowledge base. Your answers are based on that knowledge base. You have faster responses and you'll reduce repetitive work. So that's a lot of what we see now is build the AEO that gets the structure in, and then take that content, that structure on how you developed that answer engine optimization content, and use that to fuel your AI agent, and they work together. One example of this on the next slide is Delaware Department of Labor. So imagine entire Department of Labor for a state, and taking all the structured content around workman's comp, all the different disabilities, all the different departments within there, looking at all the questions that folks have, reorganizing them for the website so it's more clear and efficient. People search Google. Now they're finding Department of Labor and they're finding the exact thing they're looking for, instead of having to search the web, search all through Department of Labor website, and they get there. And once they're there, the search bot and the AEO then kick in. And if we go to the next slide, you can see how this works. So you have all these different departments. The content is now structured with answer engine optimization. The bot is synced into that, and everything's connected. So now you're answering the questions quicker, forms are being filled out and completed. Your completion rate has gone up. And imagine, for a nonprofit, if your fundraising donation page is completed, how many get stopped halfway through? This accelerates everything. So a really interesting, scalable example of AEO and bots coming together. And then on the agent side,
So you covered most of this, but yeah.
Yeah, I just covered this. But on the agent side, this is the front end of that bot taking the AEO content and responding in real time with the person on the front end.
Yeah, so you're probably starting to notice the sort of the core of this is, and we say this garbage, kind of garbage in, garbage out sort of thing, is making sure you have the content, you're generating the content, you are the resource of information, because people are going to come to you, the answer engines are going to be looking at you or your organization and able to use this in different ways, as Joe mentioned, like with the bots, as I mentioned, to show up to surface in search results. And as we'll go through now, being able to personalize this stuff to your different audiences. So using AI, using some of that content we've created, someone following through an answer engine, coming in through an answer engine, and then you being able to personalize directly to them. Now more than ever, especially as people are asking these questions and they are giving more information to these tools. Google's got a ton of information about you if you're using Google. I'm sure your Microsoft accounts do as well. You might be training Chat GPT on you. You can sort of create like a twin, so to speak, in these different applications, so that they start to respond like you, think like you. Put the Kyle hat on, so to speak. And because of that, they really expect the results and the content that they see to be specific and relevant to them, as detailed as it can be. So this is a crazy example. I just had a son 3 months ago. Before I didn't have AI raise my son. I don't have AI raising my son, but I had like a whole project in Chat GPT that would give me updates on my son's like progress before he was born, what to expect after he was born. And so it's very contextual to me, and I expect that. I wanted to say, here's where he is now, here's what his milestones are like, this is his age, his weight, like all the stuff like that, as he goes and as he grows. But that your audience is starting to expect that, or all audiences are starting to expect that as well. So being able to personalize to them is something that's very powerful that AI can really help with. So the data shows that 50% of nonprofits, this is again from that State of AI uh, benchmark study we did, they think that AI can significantly improve their efficiency. And we know that you'll get a 2x adoption rate for personalization tools in larger organizations. The problem right now is small nonprofits, or typically the thought is that small nonprofits can't keep up because they don't have those connected systems to manage that data and manage that automation. But that is changed, or has changed, with AI and some of these tools, and you're starting to see. I think you're probably starting to see prices come down. I just saw Claude lower their prices, or they're lowering their prices, and others of these tools will be as well. So, what does this personalization look like? Different levels, different tiers based on the different tools you use, how specific you want to get, and at different stages in the funnel. We'll go through some examples. How nonprofits are going from one size fits all to a very tailored experience using AI and these connected workflows that we're talking about today. First is dynamic content, so adapting messaging across email and web, even on a website, but also, of course, in like a chat bot. And this is more than just saying, "Hey, Kyle," like it's being specific with what the welcome message might be, or the content that I might see, not just saying, not just dropping my name in there like you can do with like a traditional mail merge or something like that. This is very much personalization at scale based on my previous history, what I've done in the past, like what I've done on your site, questions I've asked of the bot, questions I've browsed across your site, or any information you're storing about me. This can be behavioral based triggers, so moving me to a different life cycle based on things that I've done in the past, following up with me, engaging with me. Maybe I came to your website and subscribed to a newsletter, and then I donated a little bit of money, and that like I've looked at different causes throughout your site, at larger cost causes. So maybe you don't know my financial situation because I only donated a little bit of money, but you do know that I'm interested in supporting some of these larger causes. This allows you to contextually ask me for more, basically. Hey, you gave us $50 last year. Can we count on your contribution? Did you know $250 is going to go towards this capital campaign we're running, where we'll provide, I don't know, services for this community, things of that nature. Segmenting audiences through AI, so not just creating sort of more generic audiences, donors versus volunteers, but using AI to create smart lists that will analyze those different audiences and put those in smaller buckets, so you can then further personalize those. And then using that not just in a platform, but to integrate with other platforms as well. So using tools like HubSpot, maybe Zapier, N8N, Make.com, any of your marketing tools, to be able to execute some of those strategies based on the content that comes in at scale. I think there's two success stories in here. The first one is one called Family Radio that we work with. They raise a ton of money. They are a religious radio group. They raise a ton of money online each year. The challenge that they had before was their broad messaging wasn't hitting those different listener groups. So they were just kind of putting the same message out there, and they were getting a lot less engagement. And they started to see that engagement decline, especially as younger audiences were coming in. Some of the audiences were aging out and things of that nature. And so their goal was they wanted to put life cycle based personalization in there. So where someone is in their journey, based on their like spiritual content, spiritual journey, how familiar they were with the different audiences, the different groups, the different stations. So working with them, we set up dynamic content across email, their web pages, and even some of the contextual advertising that they receive. So like injecting different ads into different stations. So, what device I'm listening on, I might get a different ad than Joe might, than Jason, someone else on the call might as well. We help set up and use AI to analyze and set up behavioral triggers based on those life cycle stages. So are they a new listener? Are they a recurring donor? Are they a volunteer? Are they some other supporter? Or have they not taken any action so far? That helped us build out these AI audience segments. So I'd start to surface people that had a greater opportunity to listen, a greater opportunity to engage. And because of that, we were able to achieve higher relevance and engagement, and keeping that operational efficiency kind of at a minimum, like, or at a maximum, but like with a minimum lift, and not having a ton of internal capacity to manage something like this, they can now do this at scale through HubSpot. Yeah, I knew we had another success story. The other one is one we've been working with for almost 7 years now, I think, a company called Advancing Innovation in Dermatology. Um, they wanted to support more effective outreach and sponsorship. So, and they wanted to do that through better personalization. So we put in more detailed organization and sponsor reporting. So started collecting more information, but also using different data tools to get more information about the data we already had, about the segments we already had. Built those audience segments out just like we did for Family Radio. We do for all of our clients, and then we test messaging because they traditionally didn't have a lot of engagement, so we had to do some test messaging. Did that at scale with HubSpot. So put a bunch of different test messages out, A/B tested a lot of these things, but automated the A/B testing, so I don't have to go in and create like a different A/B test and do a lot of this manual work. We can use things like Breeze agents to do some of that. That helped us build these better sponsor profiles, and then that allowed us to really see a huge increase in engagement. So we saw better smart segmentation, and then very specific personalization to have better long-term outcomes. And you can't really see in these charts, but like comparing year over year, we can see how much these contacts grew and how specific our audience segments were. And we talked about some of the AI enhanced automation capabilities, but this is just to kind of walk through how that looks. So we identify, we segment, and then we engage at every step and for each segment.
Great. Thanks, Kyle. And then finally, the fourth trend is, okay, how do we create all this content that we're going to use for AEO and the bots and the personalization? So we've seen traumatic and dramatic dramatic increases in the way people have been using AI. Last year it was ChatGPT and Claude, but now there's a lot more powerful tools that we want to share with you. And if we can accelerate that content creation, it's really going to help, across the board with everything. So without further ado, we'll dig into these tools. So here's four types of tools that we want to kind of go over today. One is Pressmaster. This is relatively new, but it's really transforming the way nonprofits are marketing and creating content. And we'll go into some examples for this. But it's not just press releases, it's social media, it's all your marketing. It's having a hub that really understands everything you do based on your website, all your content, and then it becomes basically a chief marketing officer and publisher for your nonprofit. And then the generative AI tools, if you're using Pressmaster, they have these tools built in, but it's still very important to be using these tools appropriately. Claude is more evolving into the business sector of connecting data and coding and systems. And ChatGPT and Gemini are more on the content creation side. They all create great content. It's just each one is now taking its own little path. Grok is getting more into the real-time conversation bots, but I think as the year goes on, we'll see everyone grab a different lane. And then HubSpot is the leading CRM out there. They use Breeze AI, and it's a native AI agent that's built into HubSpot. So as you're creating, it's a customer relationship management system. So as you're creating content for your blogs and your website, all of which is connected, the AI agent will help you write your blog, help you write your social media post, help you add content to your landing pages. It's all smart content and it's all connected. So on the back end now, your CRM is helping you write your content, giving you advice on the content, and making sure that content is all integrated. And then the workflows that Kyle talked about in terms of personalization are also connected. So anyone who's using HubSpot now can just see this tremendous, leap in the way that they're engaging with their clients or constituents. And then there's tools like GenSpark or Gamma. These are super agent platforms for creating content. If you need to create a PowerPoint or a website and have that design, literally create a website in 45 minutes to an hour from a design perspective, creates it in HTML, and you can prompt the actual, it's like you're talking to a designer. You're prompting GenSpark to add more color, to move things around, to improve the photos. And by the end of it, you're prompting the actual website development or you're prompting the PowerPoint development, and you could do it in rapid time. And then what we do is we can work with you to take those HTML files that are built on the back end and bring that to life for your actual website. And if you need to do speaking engagements and things like that, GenSpark is great to create that type of content. So just using one of these tools or types of tools will be transformative. And if you could bring all four of these together, you really leap above the competition. So next slide, AI content in practice. Oops, here we go. So these are the four different ways that a lot of these things, a lot of these tools have in common. First, there's the content drafting and ideation. So as you're writing blogs and emails, the AI bot, whether it's through Gemini now or ChatGPT, and especially with Pressmaster, it will give you suggestions as you're writing. It will review what you wrote. It will let you know if it's AEO optimized. And you're getting almost like a CMO, CTO feedback in real time as you're creating content and even helping you with the ideation. And if you look at fundraising, that's where you can really see a big leap on ChatGPT or Claude. You can create, your own agent for the content. So if you're creating grants, you can create a workspace that has all the information about your organization that, is a common denominator amongst a lot of these grant applications. So you could rapidly create grant responses. You can upload the RFP from the grant into the engine that you created, and it will, begin to answer the questions. So if you can feed the right information into these engines, you can really accelerate your grant response time and win rate. And then third, search aligned frameworks, like I was just mentioning. As you're writing content now, you might use ChatGPT to write a blog, but if you plugged it into Pressmaster or some other tools, it will then begin to write that blog for AEO optimization and SEO optimization and visibility. So that's where we're seeing a big trend in terms of content creation. They're more search aligned. And then built-in performance. If you're creating content and let's say you're using HubSpot, you're using Breeze to write the blog, to create the social media post that connects to it, to form the landing page where people donate, you can actually measure using AI tools on the back end, such as Breeze, to measure and then ultimately optimize. So maybe the landing page, if you can increase that 5%, the social media response rate 5%, and the blog, the AEO increases more traffic to your website by another 10%, and these things begin to compound, you could, increase your donations by 50% or 100% if you're able to use AI to increase all these different touch points, measure that, and then really, really drive performance. Going back to, the beginning of today's conversation, it's really important to break down these silos, integrate everything, then you can measure and optimize. Key implementation outcomes. So here's an example of what we've done at Tapp Network. We produce a ton of content, blogs, guides, do a lot of speaking engagements and research, and also support nonprofits with grants that we may be part of. So we wound up integrating a lot of these AI-powered content tools, including Pressmaster, integrating that into HubSpot, syncing that into ClickUp, which is on our operations end, all of which have AI agents in the background and making them talk to each other. So what this has done is really accelerate content production. It maintains our voice, it understands our voice. And then also we have a human in the loop element where we still can go in and make adjustments and do further polishing. And then we could have more consistent publishing consistency. If at your nonprofit, if you have 3 different people doing social media posts, from a design perspective, you need consistency. From a tone of voice, you need consistency. And even from the topics that you're writing about, there needs to be consistency. And they all need to be aligned with your brand. So if you can plug in these AI tools like Pressmaster or others that can maintain that consistency, that voice for you, you can develop a lot more content and have your team work much more efficiently together.
Scrolled real fast. Sorry.
All right. So just a quick example on Pressmaster. This is what the back end looks like, but here's something Kyle was doing, trying to um, figure out how to raise a child. But basically you come in, it has visual reasoning, structured logic, and it'll start to create these content seeds. So looking at a brand, let's say this is your nonprofit in the middle. What's your vision and predictions, the values and principles, your decision patterns? It takes all of these into consideration and then begins to create your voice. And that's super important as nonprofits. We're storytellers, and to get your story down, to be able to do that elevator pitch, to evoke empathy, all of these things are critical. And with these new tools, you can really then begin to create your stories and have a consistent brand voice. And what's great about Pressmaster is it can then publish, landing pages for your website. It can create your annual report. It can do all these things within your brand guidelines, and it can even publish directly to Facebook and Instagram. So again, these tools that are beginning to have AI that touches all these different things that were broken down in silos, integrating this in the HubSpot, now you have your personalization. So imagine the power of connecting those two systems.
Went through this.
Yeah.
I do want to make sure we have time for Q&A so we can, I think you guys can get an idea of how this works, and we can certainly schedule time with you all afterwards to see how this is all connected. But just one thing that we talked about, like what these things have in common. It's not about, as I said, the content's sort of still key and still king when it comes to this, but it's also the strategy. It's not just about like which tools. So the tools can change, the tools can evolve, the systems can change, but making sure your systems are connected. So AI is integrated with your CRM, your CMS, your whole operational workflow. It's kind of one of the reasons we stick so much to HubSpot, because it really does have AI built into that, and it really connects all those pieces and has a lot of that already. But you can certainly do that with other tools or by connecting things, focusing on user and staff capacity. So not biting off more than you can chew, but also being sure that you're optimizing for your end user and meeting them at the right time with the right content. Having content be structured so it's clean, organized, and it's ready to serve those different answer engines, the different places that you're publishing this through, and being practical about your adoption. So moving from experimentation to implementation to high value implementation that's going to really yield ROI. So I know it's really hard to stay away from like the shiny object thing right now, especially when it comes to AI, but having a plan going into this, understanding what you want the outcome to be, and really looking at what the ROI can or should be from that. So is it really saving you time? Is it really driving results for you? Is it driving revenue for you, or is it just another distraction? We can help with all that, of course. So we take a phased approach to this, but able to make impact right away. We do AI readiness assessments and workshops. So looking at your current data, your infrastructure, your staff, understanding your ethical guidelines, and building a foundation for you and with you. We will optimize your entire workflow, but also your systems as well. So looking at where there's high friction, there's processes, and integrating either AI tools, or not just AI tools, it could be automation tools that might already leverage or might future leverage AI. Understanding what the content exists, helping personalize that content, coming up with a strong strategy, not just for AEO, but again, like if you understand, like what we're kind of getting at here is like optimizing for answer engines is optimizing for humans. Optimizing for search engines is optimizing for bots, right? The traditional format is let me get first in results, whether my content's good or not. The answer engine optimization is let me show up first in results because my answers matter, right? The questions that are being asked, I have the most relevant answer to that. And then being able to support you all through that whole process, either through TechSoup, but also just as we are through Tapp. You guys will get a copy of the slide. There's an option to click a little schedule for a consultation at the bottom of this. It'll take you right to us. If you just want to jump in and get started, we can do that right away. We can jump in. We have different levels. These are some kind of out of the box levels, but we can scale this as your organization's needs do scale. Upgrade options $8.99 a month. Either one of these is 10 hours of support. The real difference between the upgrade and premium is you get a dedicated account manager, a strategist to work directly with you, and you get access to some of the higher level services like AI automation, AI ad management, and custom development and design work if you need it. We kind of glazed over. We've been published in a book, the AI powered content marketing SEO book that came out this year. We are offering a free version of this book to someone who watches this gets this webinar email, responds directly using the phrase AI ready in 2026. And then we're going to pick a winner and announce that winner on Friday. It'll be announced on our social media. We'll give a little plug for your organization as well. We have 4 minutes for questions, and thanks to my caffeine addiction, I'll try to answer as many of those as possible. Starting from the top. So someone asked about public commentary around bursting the AI bubble. Is this real in our view? What impact will that have? Like if ChatGPT.com just returns a 404 one day? Certainly possible. We could, the internet could be turned off. We would stop, being able to function, but that would have much larger implications than just not having access to AI anymore. So many things are so tied into to AI at this point, and it's being leveraged for other things. I wouldn't say it's too big to fail, but it's not just a fad. I would be like, say, like Amazon's going to go away or something like that. There's so much infrastructure there, and it's built on so much infrastructure, and so much is built from it. It's part of probably everything you do, or most of the things that happen digitally every day, at least. It would be hard to get away from. Someone asked about moving away from website-based information with AI systems, getting their future data. Where are they getting that from? Basically, I'm just kind of summarizing that there. And then what's the motivation as nonprofits to research and put in the work that feeds into AI if it's not providing referrals or crediting us for the data? So I probably made that somewhat confusing, but it's not that websites are going to go away. It's that the user interface aspect of it is no longer as important. So writing content that answers a question and creating a website that is going to drive results instead of just a flashy website that just looks good, like a brochure that does, like the traditional one, the more traditional website that doesn't have as much content. It's just optimized for search engines, and it's like big, beautiful pages, doesn't really do anything for anyone, is not going to be where the future is going. So people are turning more into not just text-based websites, but content-based websites. So Q&A style, that type of information as well. And then for nonprofits to generate content. So it's not that AI is going to generate content for you, so much that AI is going to generate content for you, but that and that they will, like if you're optimizing for answer engines, you are going to be credited for that content that you put out there. So like they'll post a link to where that source came from. You'll see it in the search results, and when you search for like in Bing and in Google. I did this one. Someone asked if you're setting up a nonprofit from the beginning, what would be the range of costs for doing this? I think we provided like an example, some of the services, but certainly reach out to us and we can kind of give you an idea. It's obviously, different levels for different budgets. I would take sort of a crawl, walk, run approach to this and look for a tool that can do many of these things for you as you help build and really start to create that as like as I said before, like a twin of sorts for you, so that it follows your brand message, it follows your mission, and it can evolve with you. Someone asked for SEO, can you request that Google search indexes? Does AEO have an equivalent? Not completely, but yes, in some ways. So making sure that your robots.txt file includes your sitemap and things like that, because then the AEO crawler can find that. Some sites, some of these have support for what's like LLMs.txt, which would be this like the equivalent of robots.txt, but optimized for large language models. And it's very new to this, but I think it's something that will either be evolved into or will support. So Google does support this, submitting to search engines for answer engine stuff and being included in large language models. Bing does as well. So ChatGPT uses like Bing pretty heavily. So making sure you're submitting to Bing as well. How does video content versus written content matter? Are they both useful in AEO? They are, especially, but one of the things you can use AI for, if you're not already, is transcribing that video and using that transcription as other content. So publishing that content in a blog, pushing that content out through social media, and then surfacing that as part of the AEO strategy. Doesn't using AI generated content hurt your SEO? It can if it's generic, and then also I think it's something a good question, something we should clarify on. Like we're actually saying not to use AI to generate the content, but rather to create content that would be optimized for AI. You can certainly use AI to help you do the ideation step. You can certainly use AI to create things like blog posts and social media posts and things like that, or add value to those posts. Like the Pressmaster one's a good example of that. Like we're not using that to like just generate AI content. We're using that to do a lot of the AI planning and help us evolve out a brand voice, and then using the content things we're creating. So webinars and things like this, where we're creating our own original content. We're taking that, feeding that into those systems, and that's breaking that up into more the content that can be pushed out across other systems for us. And we are up against time, and I have to jump for another call. I think Joe does as well. So I do want to thank you all for the time today. If you have questions, Jason's added his link and stuff to that chat, to the chat. You guys will receive this copy of this presentation, and happy to help, happy to answer questions, happy to jump in and see how we can support your organizations. Thank you.